Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over in Japan, and how that'll impact our one. Today I'm going to ask a big question. Is Charizard EX a meta-worthy deck due to some of its success over in Japan? Now, we've only had it legal for just some cups and challenges this past weekend, and it's already seen quite a good success. We're in a couple cups, definitely doing quite well in some challenges, but Japan has had this deck for about a month, so I'm going to talk about its success in there, looking at some of the tier lists, looking at some of the meta sort of breakdowns, more importantly, looking at how often it is played over the last week. Try and see if Charizard X is one of these decks which is doing well, just purely based on its sheer strength, on its Inferno Rain sort of ability setup, or it's doing well because it's a Charizard X, it's a new deck, people want to try it out, or is it just being outplaced by other sort of really strong archetypes? So hope you enjoy this video, and let's jump into looking at some of the meta breakdown. So this is a really good site here, and links to everything I use is always going to be in the description. So I have 2,700 decks which were played over this past week and weekend. We can see here that Giratina is still the most played archetype, having 18.4% of the meta. This has kind of been reflected as well in our format here. Giratina is the most played archetype on the online tournaments. Definitely a huge archetype where looking at the challenges and cups doing really well. And it's just super, super strong. I like to see that we have contended BDIF both in Japan and over for us in the rest of the world. Charizard EX does slot down to the 13%. That is still quite a lot of Charizard EX decks being played. It has an amazing ability, has huge short setup capability, and people are still trying to figure out exactly how to play Charizard. Being 30% is still really, really strong. I like to see that people are still trying to test out with Charizard EX at 13% because it is still one of those new decks. People still want to try out, still want to refine the list, so I do like seeing it pretty well. Lukeex is definitely a big surprise by being 11.7% of the meta. Now, in our sort of version here, we are still focusing more on the single strike build, doing a huge amount of damage, using single strike energy, using likes of Tyranitar, Shibu, Lugia, Evitar, well, also Lugia, and Stone Jonas do these big sort of damage, and single strike energy to do a huge amount of damage and do more. But over in Japan, they're focusing more on the colorless build because they have the likes of Mew EX, which I can't wait to be released into the 151 when it gets out, copying any of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. This is really good because it can copy Giratina Vsauce's attack and get an instant KO on them, which is really, really strong here. And the colorless build isn't strong right now for us. SheEmpowered, Gardevoir, Miraidon, and Mew VMAX are definitely still up there. Really, really powerful archetypes are still kind of a good representation of what it is, even for our sort of format as well. Lost Box is kind of like just a little bit below Mew VMAX, but I thought they would just kind of like mention as well here because Giratina is just super, super strong because it has Sableye as well as obviously Star Requiem. But Charizard EX is still really, really good. And if we look at other tournament results as well, Charizard EX is still a huge amount of played archetype, being 18.8% over here. Gardevoir then pushes into the most played deck because Gardevoir has an amazing stadium card, which pretty much makes you discard a Psychic Energy, and if you do, heal 3 damage counters from all of your Pokemon in play, which is honestly incredible and exactly where Gardevoir is pushing it out. It's not exactly the BDIF where it once was for multiple months at a time, but it's still incredibly powerful. Miraidon has definitely seen a lot more success. I think definitely seen it do really well in the World Championships. Going back to the Path Build, which I know if you've been a fan of my channel, I talked about this a couple months ago, and I've been playing that how my Miraidon EX is. So I like to see that's exactly where this deck is kind of going with it. Other decks as well, like Tina, Lost Box, as well as Gudra, Mew, and SheEmpowered also still doing pretty well. And even looking at a tier list over here, we can see here that this person, PokeyC Book, which is the site which I use constantly for getting all the Japan lists here, we can see they've even put Charizard EX as an S tier archetype. Now, I kind of disagree with that sort of way. I think it's put in the S tier because it is absolutely one of the most played archetypes right now. People are still trying to figure out exactly how it works. It gets instant KOs on Gardevoir and Mews, which is really strong, can have really good setup capability with likes of Pidgeot EX and Arceus V-Star, and can kind of like deal up those big one-hit KOs in the late game. That's why I think it's really powerful. It's still ways around it, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the exciting lists as well. And they put in the tier 2, it's the likes of Octina, Giratina, SheEmpowered, Gardevoir, and Lost Box. I definitely agree with that sort of way here. I think SheEmpowered is definitely kind of skyrisen in popularity. As you know, I'm a huge advocate for SheEmpowered. I did really well with it. And then recently I went to a league challenge and got in top 4 with SheEmpowered, which I really, really like about it, and try and test out for a cup, which I have next week. And they put in their tier 3, their B tier, Miraidon, Mew, Octillary, and Lugia. Definitely do agree with that as well. I think that's exactly where we're kind of seeing the meta. It's definitely shifting up a tiny bit. The best decks kind of haven't changed too much in the Scarlet Violet format. Once we know when rotation is happening, most likely at EUIC over in April time, it's going to be nice to see exactly how this meta is shaking up. So Charizard EX is apparently an S tier archetype according to them. So let's look at some lists which kind of like push it to make it that S tier. So if we see here, this is definitely the more of a generic, really fun archetype, which I've noticed being played quite heavily. We have here the 151 Pidgeot, which allows you to have pretty much shows your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench, which is really good, really powerful attack if you go second. Kind of like setting up some of your other Pokemon as well. You can have Artisan and Pidgey. That's a 3 Pokemon setup. You don't need to rely too much on better VIP paths, which is really strong here. Heavily on the Arceus build here by playing 4-3. Arceus is definitely the more basic attacker in the early few games because you're pretty much KOing most of the attackers in the format. You're not playing any of the likes of, you are playing Choice Spot, but you're not playing Defiant Band, so you're not getting those KOs on SheEmpowered. But getting those big KOs on like Tyrannitars, of opposing Arceus' other like 230 HP, these is really strong here. Mew EX, I definitely really like in this deck here because it kind of gets that real big threat of hitting that huge amount of damage. You can copy the likes of Radiant Greninja, copy the likes of Giratina, which are the most sort of utilizing things with Mew EX, and also is a really good draw factor. Pidgeot EX is still really powerful in this archetype and still being played. Searching it for any one card of your deck is really good. Unfortunately, limited to once per turn, but still really good here. I may have mentioned, oh, you don't have a way around SheEmpowered. You do. You have Sponge Gloves. I generally keep forgetting these cards really effective. Sponge Gloves allows you to do 30 more damage to water Pokemon. So Arceus does get that KO on that SheEmpowered, which definitely people are taking a lot more against SheEmpowered. I've noticed Victini EX is being played in some of these decks here right now because it can do that lovely 220 on anything. And here, the Sponge Gloves gets the KO with Arceus. A lot more disruptive supporters by playing 4 Ionas, 1 Judge, and 3 Boss's Orders, and a Radiant Charizard as a Radiant Pokemon of choice definitely does make a lot of sense. This is a very generic standard Charizard EX list here, and I generally quite like it. Another really interesting build here is this one here, focusing on the 151 archetypes. This plays that Charizard EX, which does 330 damage for 5 energy cards, which is, sorry, I believe 4 energy cards. Sorry, I couldn't see for a second. It is still quite a huge amount of damage. Charizard can only do that when your opponent's taken 5 prizes. So having this early pressure really early on, I generally do think it's quite nice. It does, you do have the ways to get around it, pretty much attacking out turn 2 with the likes of Magma Basement, Energy Attachment, and obviously the Infernal Rain with Charizard EX to get some energies attached to Charizard. Multiple ways to go around it. Still a bit heavy on the Arceus with a 2-2, but thinned down to 1-1 Pidgeot line. Opting to play a Dunsparce in this list as well. I generally think this is quite okay. That we're not seeing a huge amount of fighting type Pokemon out there, but people are a bit worried about some Arceus because it does have quite a high HP and people can abuse like the likes of Zapdos in their deck. So I would understand why that the likes of Dunsparce could be in here. Vitality Band, I do like doing that additional 10 more damage. Choice Spot is still really powerful. And Jax is definitely seeing quite a lot of more resurgence in these style decks here, but playing so many evolution cards, it's just super good. Now, this is a really interesting Charizard deck. This plays Octillary, and I've seen this in video before. I've shared it with a few people, and they kind of look at this and go, Charlie, what the heck is this? Well, Octillary is your path bounce. Yep, you can play the likes of Irida to kind of get out your Octillary out quite quickly. You have the likes of Karina, so you can easily search outcomes if you get like Ionis from the likes of Octillary. But no, this whole purpose mainly is to get Tower of Waters to constantly bump out the path of the people your opponent will be playing. Yes, that is the whole reason why this Octillary is played here. It's so unique, it's so interesting because if you think about it, you play Charizard, Arceus, and Pidgeot, and even Radiant and Alakazam, all of them have abilities which would be shut up by Path to Peak, kind of like pretty much shutting down the Charizard EX archetype completely. So having that Path to Peak counter with likes of Tower of Waters and Octillary is really strong, and also Irida. I played a lot of them. SheEmpowered Irida with a Lost Vacuum is really good. A supporter card which guarantees gets rid of that pesky Path to Peak. Really interesting archetype. I generally don't know if this is how Charizard EX will be played, but it's super unique. It's super fun to kind of play around here. Definitely something which I would be testing around if you are wanting to understand that how Charizard is working. But it's a lot of fun. But as you can see here, your board space will just be absolutely chock-a-blocked with all the cards you might want to have in here. So generally, it's fun, but I don't know if it's really worth it. So I thought let's look at some other decks as well to kind of talk about what really powerful cards are happening in Japan, which are impacting their changes. So Lost on Giratina doesn't really affect too much about it, but this here is really heavy on the disruption. 2 Roxanne, 2 Iona, 3 Path to Peak, and 2 Boss's Orders. This is definitely a bit similar to what we're kind of seeing here. We're mainly seeing like either a cut of a Roxanne or Iono for another additional jet energy. But honestly, this is still pretty powerful as well here. I thought I'd just showcase pretty much one of the BDIFs over Japan. Giratina has definitely been up there always in Japan, so I'd like to see it kind of return in that sort of case. Playing up team to play 2 Super Rods, where we saw Michael Power to play 3 in his top 4 worlds list. And I do like the Poke Gear because of a deck you'll constantly want to try and get that chorus turn 1 if you're going second. or just dig for that really disruptive supporter. I think that PokeyC is just really, really strong. And I really like how this deck kind of is operating here. Energy cards pretty much exactly what we're noticing here. The 1 Cramorant and 2 Sableye is definitely the more sort of norm right now. And the 3 Path to Peak, because you want to be aggressive, and in a format where we're constantly being dominated potentially by Charizard and Pidgeot EX, you want to be as disruptive as possible. So Path to Peak answers so many other archetypes like SheEmpowered, Gardevoir, and Miraidon. It just makes absolute sense in Giratina. Now, I thought I'd look at a couple of SheEmpowers. SheEmpowered is definitely the kind of the first port call is what after Charizard, where I went, Pidgeot EX is super, super strong in it. So I'm going to look at a couple of archetypes here. And this list here is really interesting in that sort of case here. They're not running the Pokestop, they're really aggressive to build here. You're playing the high counts of boss, the high counts kind of a bit of Iona by playing 2, but you're playing the PokeyC build and the 2-2 line of Pidgeot. I like this deck here. I've definitely been trying out this version. For me, I'm definitely leaning towards more the Arceus build and the Bibarel, because the Pidgeot, while I played it in some challenges, I got it out once. And it was really good because I got the win, and it was literally the very first game. But apart from that, it was constantly I couldn't get a Pidgeot out, and it was just really, really disruptive in that sort of case for trying to get the setup here. So it's a little bit bait in the certain ways here, but when it gets set up, it's honestly incredible. And PokeyC and V-Star is a really good secondary attacker. You kind of like, if they KO one of your back Excaliburs, you instantly have a response by getting potentially 4 energies out on the field with the likes of Star Portal and the energy attachment for turn. I do think this is still really powerful. I like the Bossorders plus Canceling Clone. This is definitely becoming a much more common trend in SheEmpowered, because Brilliant Greninja KOing 2 basic Pokemon with under 90 HP is just super, super strong. The rest of it is very, very simple of what we're seeing here. Definitely the 3 Arcana is a bit of a low side when you're playing equivalent of 5-5 for a stage 2, but obviously this is done pretty well overall. Another build as well is the build of Arceus and Bibarel. This is the more build which I'm kind of like focusing towards here, but definitely a couple more changes I would do in this. Let's cut away the Skater's part potentially for 2 more Pokestop, because you can really utilize the likes of Cross Switcher burning through the deck as quick as possible to try and like be at that really good disruptive capability. Still playing the Canceling Clone, still playing some switching cards, which are strong here. And I do like having a Super, especially in Pokestop builders, because you're potentially going to be really aggressive and burn through a load of your Pokemon potentially, or energies late game. I think it's really good to shuffle the back in. I'm definitely more of the camp of a 4 superior energy retrieval and then 1 super rod over the likes of energy retrieval. I think recycling some Pokemon is much stronger in the game, and also getting those 2 energies back in the deck, making sure you can really utilize them again with SheEmpowered Shivery Chill later on in the turn. Bibarel is definitely really more powerful, with the likes of Iona being hugely more popular. Having that out to that is super, super strong. And again, love SheEmpowered. I'm really excited to showcase more of my lists about it later on this week, and I hope you enjoy that when I post that. So Gardevoir EX definitely is focusing more on the Mirage step. I've been playing quite a lot of the Torrent build of Mirage step Gardevoir, and honestly, it is insane. Turn 2, pretty much having like 6 outs for your Gardevoir EX is just really, really powerful. Yes, you might go behind in prizes, but that's okay, because you play the likes of a really good the Moonlight Stadium, which makes you discard, like I mentioned earlier, discard a Psychic Energy, and if you do, heal 3 damage counters from all of your Pokemon in play. Really, really powerful, and I really love that. This plays for 5 outs to Path to Peak, which is really strong. If Power Pad dependent, you have 6, which is really good here. Disruptive capabilities, the likes of Iona and Boss. 2 Research is really, really strong. Very similar to towards this as well, but just opting to add the new Stadium card. Really, really like this. I think Gardevoir is in such a good position right now. It kind of can go a bit toe-to-toe on Charizard, but obviously be careful, because they can hit you for weakness, so definitely something to keep an eye out. Miraidon EX is definitely a deck which I've been really, really liking, and this is a really interesting build about it. This plays some Mew EX, which I've seen quite a bit of success over some watching on YouTube, as well as some Torrent Results over in Japan. Mew EX, like I mentioned, is really, really powerful, and it's kind of why Lukeex is doing super, super well. It has the ability to draw into 3 cards in hand, so really, really good against the late Iona, but the attack for 3 colorless energies lets you use the opponent's active Pokemon's attack. Really, really powerful here, because I instantly think of Brilliant Greninja and the likes of Giratina V-Star, doing 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, as well as also doing a huge straight 280 damage, is really, really powerful. And that's why Mew EX is just super good. Copying any of the attacks you don't need necessary energy requirements is just really, really powerful. Yes, it has 180 HP, but it does have free retreat, so definitely something to just keep in mind on. I think the Miraidon count is really good. You're a bit low on the Raichu, but as you have Mew EX, you have that other out as well. PokeyC is really strong. The 3 Paths to Peak is more common. I think Andrew Mahone really utilized how strong Miraidon EX purely was, and definitely focusing on the 3 of those is really powerful. A lot more switching outs with the Beach Core, 2 Switch, and Escape Rope. So kind of focusing on Miraidon EX as your main attacker in here. Very disruptive supporter cards, the likes of 3 Boss, 2 Judge, and 3 Ionos. And then also I really like the likes of an Arven as well. R1 is really good because it makes you get any of your item cards as well, like Generator, then plus the likes of Forest Sealstone to get any card you might want to have later on in the game. Really, really good fan of this list here, and generally I really like how Mirage on the X can be situated going into the tournaments. Lukeex, like I mentioned so much about its color split, I thought I'd just showcase you exactly what one might look like. And it's very interesting. You're focusing purely on using some good single prize attackers. Luxray GX, wow, it's no longer been GX for a long time, but regular Luxray is really, really powerful, especially if you're behind in prize it. Instantly bench and do 180 damage. Really, really good because you can get KOs on the likes of Luminion, even if they have weakness, and the likes of opposing Lukeex, which I really like in this format. And it's such a good attacking going into it. You're not affected by Sableye, and doing with therapeutic energy, doing 180 damage constantly turn after turn can instantly really slow down your opponent. This list doesn't in fact play the Weirdo, which is a lot more common in these sort of builds here. Load up some energy to play, just energy, Weirdo anti-actives, load up Weirdo with all the energies, and do a huge amount of damage here. Because you have likes of Mew EX, you can use that to do those big sort of damage late game, as well as also that extra draw factor in the game. I really like this style deck here. It's focusing more on the double Luminion and Bennett, which is definitely the more common build here, and multiple ways out to Path to the Peak by playing 3 stadiums and the likes of Pumpkaboo and 4 Ultra and 4 Capturing Arona. So multiple ways to get out your Path to Peak. So generally really like this style of archetype. I wonder if this will see quite a lot of success. We're still, even when the color build was the strongest, Single Strike still did the best at these big tournaments over Japan. So we're going to see if it's still going to be the case, or if we are going to see colors build kind of see its triumph and really like showing the tournaments. And then finishing up, we're looking at Lost Box. Nothing really much has really changed here. We're seeing here Sky Sealstone as well as Forest Sealstone in this build here. Definitely a really, really strong archetype, really, really powerful, focusing a lot on the Dragonite and Raikou. There are likes, or you can potentially go back to the Kyogre build, but because there is so much mana fee and so little HP Pokemon, you can kind of like worry about the Kyogre build might potentially be one of those bit of a risky sort of plays right now. But this build here, really, really aggressive with the likes of the Pokestop, the Lost Vacuum, as well as the multiple switching outs as well. 3 Super Rolls I really, really like in here, and double mana fee, really, really scared of really good ninjas going around here. And rest of it is really, really straightforward. And I really like the Sky Sealstone, purely on the basis you can kind of like get the big KOs with on the likes of Arceus's with the late game after you do some sprinkle damage, or more importantly, these Lugia V-Stars which are going around here. So I thought this was kind of like good deck to round out these really powerful archetypes, and I hope it's been helpful to kind of see exactly what decks are really performing well over in Japan. So if we just start to looking ahead, next weekend is the big tournament happening actually back in Yokohama. So I'm really excited to see exactly what deck is going to kind of position on top. We nearly have exactly the same format right now, except they have 151, so basically means they have Mew EX and we don't. So could we actually see Charizard do well in this tournament? Is it a good pick, or is it going to be one of those decks to go show lots in the stream, but not get in the top 16, which is the really, really important stuff I'm showcasing? I'll, of course, be covering that in 2 weeks' time when we get the results as well here. But honestly, I'm really, really excited to see how the meta is going to evolve in Japan. We've got a couple of weeks till we get some new cards, and we're definitely going to see some reveals of it very, very soon. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that. And more importantly, I'm just excited to talk to you more about the Japan season's about to start. And I'm really excited to kind of like cover what decks are really doing well, because I believe it is happening this weekend, which is honestly insane. Really happy to have City Leagues returning very, very soon. So I hope you enjoyed this looking ahead video and really giving you an insight exactly where I believe Charizard EX is kind of positioned. I do think it's doing pretty well. I like the creativity that Japan's really going with, the Octillary. I haven't even mentioned there's a Lost Box version, which is doing pretty well. And honestly, it could be exciting to see how this tier 2, or some people even put a tier S archetype, is going to develop over time. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Do you think Charizard EX is a worthy pick to play at some tournaments? My name is TCG, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye for now.